Welcome to Proclaiming Justice, a podcast from PJTN that focuses the light of truth on vital issues in today's headlines that impact every American. I'm your host, Laurie Cardoza-Moore, founder and president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, and I'm here to educate, motivate, and activate you to action. I want to arm you with the truth and the facts you'll need to fight and preserve our constitutional republic and uphold the Judeo-Christian values our nation was founded upon.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman.
So what do the Jewish people have in common with Superman, Spiderman, Batman, and the large universe of today's popular superheroes? On our program today, you're going to learn about the fascinating history of Jews as both creators and characters in the world of comics. Hello, I'm Laurie Cardoza-Moore, founder of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and sharing the message of Christian biblical responsibility to the people and land of Israel in the face of a growing global anti-Semitism. Proclaiming Justice to the Nations was birthed to stop the silence, to wake up Christians and people of conscience to the realities of a world bent on destroying Israel and the Jewish people. So how is it that Jewish writers and artists created some of our most beloved and enduring comic superheroes? In pre- and post-war America, Jews felt marginalized and deeply affected by the diaspora and the Holocaust. Thus, Jewish writers and artists were ripe for contributing their harrowing stories and their mighty values and images to super creations. In 1938, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created the Mensch of Steel. This savvy super character ushered in the golden age of comic books and superheroes. If you look closely, you'll see that these two Jewish boys behind the man gave him Jewish traits and roots. He was born Kal-El, Hebrew for voice of God. Superman is truly the ultimate immigrant success story. Like baby Moses traveling the Nile in a basket, Superman was saved from annihilation by his parents arriving on Earth in a tiny space capsule to escape the Holocaust on Krypton. His values were to heal the world, fighting for good against evil. Like the silent Jews of the time, his alter ego, Clark Kent, was the simple guy to the world, hiding the most invincible hero. During World War II, Superman, along with other comic heroes, fought the world's most evil villains, the Nazis. It's been said that Joseph Goebbels actually denounced the Man of Steel as a Jew.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane.
Superman. Superman.
Superman. Superman.
Superman. He was the world's first comic book superhero. The fearless man in blue tights, with a red cape and an S stretched boldly across his chest.
Superman made a big impact on me, and I guess on most of the people who read him.
For more than 60 years, Superman has been everything. From a comic book, to a cartoon, to a movie star.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
Everybody, when they talk about Superman as part of their childhood, glows about why it's such a great character.
Look, Superman!
George Reeves would run up and bounce out the window. I would try to mimic that. I mean, who didn't?
According to the comic books, Superman began life as baby Kal-El, born on the distant planet of Krypton. But Superman was actually conceived in the imaginations of two teenage boys from Cleveland, Ohio, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, both the sons of Jewish immigrants. When they met at Glenville High School in 1931, the two teenagers were shy loners with a shared interest in adventure stories, science fiction pulp magazines, and comic strips. Jerry wrote articles for his school newspaper. Joe was an artist who enjoyed illustrating Jerry's work. A powerful partnership was forged. Over the next few weeks, Jerry and Joe continued to refine their concept. They made Superman a refugee from a distant planet, clothed him in the muscle-defining outfit of a circus acrobat, and gave him a secret identity as a mild-mannered newspaper reporter named Clark Kent. Superman's appeal transcended nationality. After all, in many ways, Superman was the ultimate American immigrant.
Superman was the great longing of these immigrants to fit into society and to aspire to greatness.
Now seen as a symbol of hope to a struggling nation, Superman was bigger and more powerful than even his creators could have imagined. Some have seen Superman as a mythic symbol of hope, strength, and moral certainty, while others would simply call him a pop culture phenomenon.
I mean, it's not like I asked to be famous.
Yeah, well, it's the price you pay.
Throughout his history, he's found himself in touch with the times and occasionally out of fashion. But Superman continues to endure as generation after generation have come to know him. And with each new generation, Superman continues to challenge our collective notion of what it means to be a hero.
There's always a time for heroes. It's the spirit of Superman, and it's someone that people can aspire to be.
The guy down the street wanted to be a sports jock. I wanted to save Metropolis.
It's about having a hero who swoops down and saves you, who looks pretty good, too.
He enables you to do everything humanly possible that we all wanted to do.
In early 1939, the success of Superman prompted editors at DC Comics to find more superheroes for its company. In response, two young Jewish writers, Bob Kane and Bill Finger, created a character called the Batman. Beyond the fact that his creators were Jews, in many respects, Batman is also Jewish. Like Superman, he was a survivor. But with Batman, it was much more traumatic. Batman began as Bruce Wayne, who, as a child, saw his parents killed before his eyes. This caused something dark within his psyche. The Dark Knight was driven, obsessed, and haunted. Many observers have noticed that the Jewish-created superheroes emerged from the shadows of World War II. When Batman emerged in 1939, many Jewish children were seeing their parents killed before their eyes in concentration camps and ghettos across Europe. In that sense, Batman was a stand-in for countless Jewish children who emerged from the war years deeply damaged by what they had witnessed. There was a second Jewish quality in Batman, as a matter of fact, in most all superheroes: the secret identity. Something deeply Jewish going all the way back to the Torah itself. Think of how many biblical stories feature people who have disguised themselves. Just in the book of Genesis alone, Jacob disguises himself as his hairy twin Esau. Tamar disguises herself as a prostitute to entice and expose Judah. And Joseph essentially disguises himself as an Egyptian to fool his brothers. Fast forward in Jewish history, the Conversos, the secret Jews of Spain, had to masquerade themselves as Christians while maintaining Jewish customs in secret. And what about modern assimilated Jews trying to fit into Gentile society? The ultimate irony, it didn't work in Germany, and unfortunately, it won't work today if the trend of worldwide anti-Semitism continues to grow. Even Batman's creator, Bob Kane, who started his life as Robert Kahn, assumed a secret identity. Kahn is a Germanized form of the Jewish surname Cohen. Was he trying to mask his ancient priestly reality of Khan? Was he creating a mask for himself as well?
The origin of Batman starts with alienation and acceptance themes. It's the idea of a kid being orphaned by crime.
It's operatic, it's huge. It's, somebody on their knees crying over their dead parents.
can show people that the icon of the bat symbol in any country, in any language, and they'll look at it and they'll tell you it's Batman.
Rising from the depths of tragedy, he has sworn to fight the forces of evil. He is the Batman, one of the most popular and iconic figures in literary history. But the journey that the Dark Knight detective has taken to become a worldwide phenomenon is filled with almost as many twists, turns, and close calls as one of his cases. The story starts in the 1930s. As the United States was facing the ever-growing threat of war, people were looking for a way to escape their everyday troubles. The young, rapidly growing comic book industry supplied the escapism they craved.
The superhero comics were coming in with the war. And so I think these fantasy images are projections of, well, how do you deal in these tumultuous times? So by the time, America gets involved in the war in 1941 after December 7th when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, then America's finally committed, and they're in, and the comic book world is committed too.
DC Comics had quite a success with the mighty Superman, and they found themselves looking for more colorful characters to fill their pages. But was this new kind of superhero just a flash in the pan? The answer was locked in the imagination of a young man named Robert Kane.
Bob Kane was a kid when he created Batman. He was really just a teenager. And it was the late 1930s. The comic book industry was brand new, but he had an interesting assignment. DC Comics was looking for a complement to the first superhero that they had presented, which was Superman. And to Bob, what made the most sense would be to go in the opposite direction and create a character who could be a superhero, but really based in humanity.
I saw a book by Leonardo da Vinci, and he had all his early inventions in the book. There was one drawing of a man on a bat sled. He had huge bat wings, and he was on a sled. It was the first glider into space. And to me, it looked like a bat. And actually, he had a quote, "Your model shall have no other wings but that of a bat." And then basically, I saw Zorro, the dual identity of Zorro, with Doug Fairbanks Sr., who was my idol as a kid. At night, he fought the desperados in the old Spanish West as Zorro with the mask. And he came out of a cave with a dark horse, a black horse called Tornado, and instead I reinterpreted and made a Batmobile.
I thought the name was good. It's a good name, Batman. When I saw the drawings of him, he looked like a very mysterious figure with that cape or whatever it was wrapped around him.
Bob Kane, Bruce Wayne, Batman are really all one and the same, and the character is really simply an extension of Bob Kane and who Bob Kane was and what he was about and so forth. He said as a child his dream was to live in a castle in Italy and have a butler. And where does Bruce Wayne live? He lives in a mansion, which is close to a castle, and he has Alfred. So I think a lot of his daydreams and things as a child were just incorporated into the character.
I'm really sorry he isn't around today, because he always used to say, "Hey, you see Batman? It was the biggest movie of the year. Where's Spiderman?" There's nothing I could say. Finally, Spiderman gets on the screen, and where's Bob? Terrible.
Kane quickly realized that he had a success on his hands, and keeping up with the demand for the Dark Knight's adventures would be more than just a one-man job. Soon he hired a handful of collaborators to help bring the Cape Crusader to life. Men such as Bill Finger, Jerry Robinson, Dick Sprang, and Gardner Fox would in the coming years help the growing legend of the Batman reach heights that even the optimistic Bob Kane couldn't have thought possible.
What weighs 6 ounces sits in a tree and is very dangerous.
A sparrow with a machine gun.
Yes, of course. Now,
Batman had become something of a sensation. Soon he and Robin were everywhere. From out of the comic books, they jumped into newspaper strips, the radio, movie screens, and could even be seen helping out with the war effort.
When you look at the 1940s, he's dealing with the war. He's dealing with the idea of spies in America, the ideas of rampant crime because of the whole issue of the growing organized crime world.
The theme of Batman continues to be, to me, so simple that it's universal. I am one person. I can make a difference.
I want to take you to Israel in pictures and film. I want you to see how God's sovereign hand can be seen before our eyes right here in this land. That's why PJTN is offering a special anniversary package that includes a captivating new book and award-winning DVD. Israel Rising is a unique visual story of Israel's miraculous journey from unforgiving desert to thriving nation. Thousands of years ago, the prophet Ezekiel foretold a future time in which the arid land of Israel would come alive for its people. Now this breathtaking book documents the fulfillment of this vision, as rarely seen photographs from the 1880s to the 1940s are juxtaposed with recent photos of the same locations. This book will inspire and captivate you as it illuminates Israel's foretold awakening in a new and unforgettable way. In addition, you'll receive the award-winning documentary, Israel Indivisible: The Case for the Ancient Homeland. This inspiring film examines the many political twists and turns that make Israel the world's most controversial nation. From Abraham and the Promise to the issues facing the Jewish state today, the film examines the historical, archaeological, legal, and biblical foundations for the modern state of Israel. This is a limited time offer for these two remarkable resources for just a one-time gift of $70 today. Your generous donation will help ensure that PJTN stays on the front lines and in the headlines of all the important issues facing Israel and our Jewish brethren. So please go to pjtn.org today. From studying history, it's very clear that what starts with the Jews never ends only with the Jews. We must strongly stand against any anti-Semitic trends, for if not stopped, they'll cause harm to all of us, and we'll witness the downfall of our Judeo-Christian Western culture. Today, many people say there's no longer a need for a Jewish state, that Jews around the world no longer need a place of refuge. But anyone who has heard recent statistics about the worldwide rise in anti-Semitism would never make such a claim. The reality is that neo-Nazi groups and Nazi sympathizers are increasing around the world. Surveys show that over 1 billion people in the world harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. Close to 50% believe that Jews have too much power in the business world, and 2/3 of the world's population has never heard of the Holocaust or believe the historic accounts of it are inaccurate. Don't let yourself be manipulated by evil people with a wicked agenda. When the self-serving villains are in control, good people from all religions suffer. Muslims, Christians, and all people of conscience should stand proudly and show respect for a country that gives so much to the world in so many ways. Do your part, do your research, and do what you can to make a difference. Because what happens in Israel does affect us all. This is not just a Jewish or just an Israeli problem. This is a problem for all humanity, for each and every one of us who believe in freedom and human rights. Learn more about what you can do at pjtn.org. From 1941 to the mid-60s, legendary Jews Stan Lee and Jack Kirby spearheaded Marvel, a universe of superheroes that included the Fantastic Four, the Incredible Hulk, the X-Men, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, and Spiderman, among others. The fact that reading and watching stories about Black or Jewish heroes seems commonplace to us today is due in large part to Lee, who reimagined the concept of a superhero. Through his Jewish outsider identity, he created a completely new type of superhero, flawed and complex. They looked a lot like us. Stan Lee was born Stanley Lieber in 1922 in New York. His parents were Jewish immigrants from Romania. Lee initially wanted to be a serious writer, but when he graduated high school, he was hired by Martin Goodman, a relative who worked in the magazine industry. After serving in the military during World War II, Lieber returned to the comic business, and like many Jews trying to make it in the U.S., he changed his name. In the early 1940s, Lee teamed up with the Jewish creators of Captain America, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. In the character of Captain America, these Jewish writers and artists gave their hero a passive and weak alter ego, symbolic of how Jews were stereotypically viewed. That is, until he slurped a serum, transforming him into the Star-Spangled Hero. The serum was created by, of course, a Jewish scientist, Professor Reinstein. In 1961, Lee and Kirby teamed up to create a super team, the Fantastic Four. One member of the Fantastic Four, the Thing, felt like a freak because cosmic rays had transformed him into an orange, granite-skinned monster. He was, by all accounts, a metaphor for Jews, African Americans, and other minorities. Then in 2002, in an issue of the Fantastic Four titled Remembrance of Things Past, test pilot Benjamin Jacob Grimm, the Thing, returns to his Lower East Side roots to give back a Magen David he stole from a pawn shop while a teen. When the owner, Mr. Scheckerberg, becomes super-villainized, Grimm did what no other superhero had done before, recited the Shema. Later, he finally celebrated his bar mitzvah, no doubt serving a gesund buffet for the Fantastic Four, who watched him daven. The Amazing Spider-Man was first published in 1962 and became an instant hit. According to Avi Arad, the Israeli-born founder of Marvel Studios with Lee, Spider-Man is clearly Jewish. Peter Parker is a deep thinker, immersed in a loving family that seems Jewish and lives in a real-life Jewish neighborhood in New York. His primary defense is wit, explains Arad, even more than his superhero powers. In 1963, Lee and Kirby introduced the X-Men, super mutant heroes who were hated and feared by those they helped, much like Jews who strive to make the world a better place. By the late 1970s, openly Jewish characters flew out of the closet and off the comic stands. Chris Claremont, another Jewish writer, introduced X-Man Kitty Pryde, who often wore a Star of David, and redeemed the X-Men's arch nemesis, Magneto, a.k.a. Max Eisenhardt, whose villainy resulted from his past childhood in Nazi concentration camps. The Incredible Hulk was Bruce Banner, a former American military man who'd been turned into a monster and was now pursued by the very people who once employed him. Running for his life, the Hulk wanders the earth just to survive. Some saw parallels with Jewish history. Lee himself saw Jewish roots in the story of the Golem, a mythical monster that legend credits with protecting the Jews of medieval Prague from anti-Semites. A 1981 story sees the Hulk traveling to Israel aboard a freighter called the Star of David. Perhaps like the Jews, he finally found safety and security in the Jewish state. In 1972, Lee used his column Stan's Soapbox to call for inclusivity and to criticize racism and anti-Semitism. On November 12, 2018, we lost Stan Lee. In his career, he transformed a small-scale business into today's multi-billion-dollar superhero industry dominated by blockbuster movies, with many of the heroes invented by Stanley Martin Lieber.
The 2008 National Medal of Arts to Stan Lee for his groundbreaking work as one of America's most prolific storytellers.
Well, my upbringing was in the Depression days.
We lived in the Bronx on University Avenue.
That old apartment that we lived in, wow, I hated that. My mother and father slept in a couch in the living room that opened up into a double bed, and I slept in a little bedroom in a bed. I still remember how important it was to have enough money for a loaf of bread or a bottle of milk. I got into comics by accident when I heard there was a job open at Magazine Management. They wanted me to work in the comic department. Some department, it was two people, Joe and Jack. And they were the two who were really running Timely Comics when I came there to work. My name at the time was Stanley Martin Lieber. I took my first name Stanley and cut it in half. I didn't want to use the name Stanley Martin Lieber because I was saving that for the great American novel, which I never wrote.
America went to war, and the superheroes went to war along with them.
Simon and Kirby were the first two to really play Hitler up as the world's worst villain.
We were winning the war, through our superheroes and our real heroes overseas.
I myself got so caught up in all of that the next thing I knew, I had enlisted in the Army. I felt our nation was really in danger. And I couldn't have lived with myself if I were a civilian while other people were over there fighting.
In his take on superhumans, he paid way more attention to the human than the super. He made the characters real. He made them feel like people who you knew. They were your friends, they were your neighbors. And suddenly people got emotionally invested in this and they cared about it.
Spider-Man is Stan. I absolutely feel that. All the things that Stan feels, morality, Uncle Ben, you know, when all of that is Stan's attitude towards mankind.
I want to do more of everything I'm doing. The only problem is time. I just wish there were more time.
Well, that's our program for today, and I want you to know we appreciate your support. The time to take a stand is now. Be a leader in your community and in your church. One person can make a difference. Get involved with and support pro-Israel organizations such as PJTN. Call your senators, congressmen. Let your elected leaders hear from you. Visit our website to learn more. Sign up to receive action alerts and order our films to share with family and friends. Please encourage everyone you know to tune in and become informed. God bless you, and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and all Israel. We'll see you next time on Focus on Israel.
To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, P.O. Box 682711, Franklin, Tennessee 37068. You can also support PJTN online. Visit pjtn.org or call 1-877-873-9020.
Anti-Semitism has reached epic proportions, and Israel is now surrounded by nations who seek its destruction. For Israel to lose just one battle would mean losing everything. As Christians, it is our biblical responsibility to stand with our Jewish brethren and Israel. PJTN needs your help to reach more Christians with this urgent message. Please visit our website to become a member today and order our award-winning documentaries. You must decide that you won't be silent. Sign up now at pjtn.org. God bless you, and thank you for your support and prayers. Thank you again for joining me on this edition of Proclaiming Justice. Please share this podcast with your family and friends. For more information about how you can get involved, please visit our website at pjtn.org. As a PJTN Watchman, you can help us keep up the fight to preserve our freedom for our children and their children for such a time as this.